Happy day 38. Happy Thursday. Happy Maundy Thursday, a date that is named after the Latin for John 13:34, which is a new commandment I give to you, mandatum novum do vobis. So Maundy reflects back on that. I want to talk about being responsible. So my brother-in-law, Sherry, grew up in Atlanta and with her family, and her brother, while he was in high school last couple of years, and then while he was going to Georgia Tech, worked at a fence company. And he was a laborer, and he had a boss named Stoney. And Stoney didn't have any teeth, and he had a really hard time understanding what Stoney was saying. But there's a couple things. So he would sort of imitate Stoney going off on these tirades where he could not understand a single thing that he was saying, except if ever anything went wrong, he could make out that Stoney was saying, "I'm not reliable," by which he meant, "I'm not liable," or "I'm not responsible." But what he said is, "I'm not reliable." So that became sort of a Conley statement. I'm not reliable, which is what you're saying when you're actually at fault, but you're saying I'm not at fault. And we see that line throughout the passage that I'm going to read you today, which is Matthew chapter 27, 1 through 32. So pay attention to how many people are basically being like Stoney and saying, I'm not reliable, I'm not liable, I'm not responsible, but in fact, they clearly are. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people made their plans to have Jesus executed. So they bound him, led him away, and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. "I have sinned," he said, "for I have betrayed innocent blood." "What is that to us?" they replied. "That's your responsibility." So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went away and hanged himself. The chief priests picked up the coins and said, "It is against the law to put this into the treasury since it's blood money." So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. That is why it has been called the field of blood to this day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. Quote, "They took 30 pieces of silver, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field as the Lord commanded me." Meanwhile, Jesus was took before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. Now it was the governor's custom at the festival to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At that time, they had a well-known prisoner whose name was Jesus Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, "Which one do you want me to release to you, Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah?" For he knew that it was out of self-interest that they, the religious leaders, had handed Jesus over to him. While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him a message saying, "Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" asked the governor. "Barabbas," they answered. "What shall I do then with Jesus who is called the Messiah?" Pilate asked. They all answered, "Crucify him." "Why? What crime has he committed?" asked Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." All the people answered, "His blood is on us and on our children." Then he released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff on his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. "Hail, King of the Jews," they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. And they mocked him. They took off the robe and put on his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. So who's to blame? Well, pretty much everyone in the story. The chief priests have already shown their true colors. They were working to have Christ killed. Judas's guilt has been established. Pilate plays games and makes it look like he's not responsible, right? He washes his hands, but he's guilty. The crowd joins in saying, "Crucify him." We used to do a service on Passover Sunday trying to capture what happens during the week, where it was just scripture being read, the whole story. We try and condense it down, read the whole story of Holy Week. And I have different readers reading parts and using art and all that. The only part that the congregation took place in was repeating the line, "Crucify him," because there's a sense in which that's our part, right? That's what we do. So, look, I can go on about the only ones who escape notice or escape guilt would be Simon, who's in there, and Pilate's wife, who says, "Don't do this." But the basic gist of the story is we are guilty. So there are two pieces of art that I looked at today to put in for today. One of them was from a picture of Simon carrying the cross. And I thought, I'm not interested necessarily in us identifying today with Simon, so I put in a picture of Pilate washing his hands. Because I think we've got to understand we're a whole lot more like Pilate when it comes to Jesus' death than we are like Simon. So my assignment for you for today is to make plans today to get to a Good Friday service tomorrow. And if you attend Christ Church, there are Good Friday services tomorrow. There's open times of communion and reflection on the Stations of the Cross and other things. You can get all that information on our website. Have a good day.